Hey guys, what's up? It's the Tominator. So in this one, we're going to take a look at the prejudging for the Arnold Classic South America that's taking place this weekend in Brazil. So here we have the top two callout featuring Rafael Brandao on the left versus Juan Morel on the right. So let's let it play out and we'll break it down as these guys go through the rounds. In the front double biceps, okay, let's give props to Juan for hitting that vacuum, because it's a nice touch and we got to applaud the effort he put in to be able to do it. However, is it necessarily making it or breaking it for him in this shot? I would argue no. I would still go with Rafael Brandao on this one for the cleaner lines, the deeper separation, and the better legs. I mean, just look at his quads compared to Juan's, even the calves. And I think upstairs, he's got a tighter waistline, arguably a better taper, just more aesthetic looking, even though Juan's got a size advantage. And that holds true in the front lat spread as well. Again, Rafael's lower body is just better from the front, so it's going to be hard for Juan to measure up from the waist down. Upstairs, he's bigger than I'm sure, but Rafael Brandao's got a better shoulder to waist ratio. Okay, so I like him more in the lat spread as well. So far it's 2-0 for Brandao. But when they turn to the side and the side chest, and from here on out, it's going to mostly be Juan Morel running the show. Just look at all the detail in his glutes and hamstrings. Look how his hamstrings just kind of droop down like that. And then when we go upstairs, he's just so massive and thickly developed. I mean, just go body part by body part and compare his pecs to Brandao's, Juan Morel's shoulder to Rafael Brandao's, his arms, etc. And I think it's clear who's coming out on top in this one. And downstairs now, I would go with Juan, actually. I think that Brandao was beating him quite soundly from the front, but from the side, I think it's Juan, especially if we factor in the glutes. Brandao's still got him beat in the calves for what it's worth, but I don't think it's worth very much from the side angle. Really good obliques on Brandao, but then again, Juan's no slouch when it comes to the midsection either. For a mass monster, he's got an admirably trim waistline. And what is that, the moon pose? I thought they banned that one. Okay, in the back double biceps, this is where the size advantage really comes into play, okay? I mean, just look at the thickness of Juan's back compared to Brandao's. It's almost like a pro versus an amateur. That's just how much bigger he is, how much meatier that those traps and lats are, even the shoulders as well. The lower back, Juan's showing something of a Christmas tree, whereas Brandao's looks very shallow, and all we kind of see is some wrinkling going on down there. Now, whether that's due to him holding a bit of water, or whether it's because he lost a little bit of size, dieting down for this competition. Either way, it's a bit of a blemish. And even when we go downstairs now, Juan's almost got like graininess in the glutes and hamstrings, for crying out loud. So I would definitely go with him on this one. My biggest complaint, though, with Juan is the symmetry. Okay, so just look at the arms. For some reason, that left bicep looks almost non-existent, and especially compared to the right one. Now, I didn't really notice this so much from the front, but from the rear, it becomes quite glaring. Even the lower back, I was mentioning the faint Christmas tree outline, while the right side is looking a little bit wonky compared to the left, or vice versa, depending on how you're looking at it. But either way, there's definitely a discrepancy there between the left and the right sides. So whether that's due to maybe just his stance, how he's putting the one leg back like that that's throwing it off, or whether it's his actual development that's kind of askew, I don't know, but it's not that bad. It's not that noticeable. And again, with the moon pose, what's going on with this guy? Now, when they get into the Christmas tree, it looks fine. Very symmetrical. And look at Juan Morel in the Christmas tree compared to Rafael Brandao. This is an absolute murder fest, man. He's just murking the kid. If I was in Brandao's camp, like if I was his coach or his trainer or something, or anyone who had any kind of influence, I would advise him, don't even bother with this one. Because this is just a transition and it's not mandatory. I mean, most of the guys at this level do it as they're shifting into the rear lat spread, but you don't have to do it. So if it's going to make you appear weak, why would you? I mean, that's just posing 101. You hide your weak points and you show off your strengths. So I would say, maybe hold off on this one for the next few shows until you bring up that back thickness a bit more, because you're just really playing yourself here. In the rear lat spread, again, a little bit of asymmetry going on in Juan's lower back there, the lower lat. But other than that, I mean, his traps are just so much thicker than than Rafael's, and the lats are bigger and wider. Again, he looks a little drier in the lower body as well, so I'd go with Morel on this one too. Rafael's got a nice taper, but he really needs to pack on some pounds of muscle into that back to be competitive at this level. Turning back to the side and the side tricep, again, I just love Juan's leg. Look at all the detail in his outer quad. When we go upstairs, I mean, his shoulder's like a friggin' bowling ball. It's so big. He's got that sharp horseshoe. The chest is a little thicker, and I think he's even presenting his midsection a little bit better than Brandao right here. Now, Brandao's no slouch in the shoulder department, and we can see the nice striations he's got there, which Juan doesn't, but he's just getting outsized quite significantly. And even though his triceps, I think you could argue maybe that he's better genetically speaking in that aspect in terms of the muscle belly insertions and whatnot, his horseshoe's not as sharp as Juan's. So again, the side leg goes to Juan. So I think this is a pretty comfortable win for Morel. I like when Brandao turns to the front to kind of twist like this, because not a lot of guys can pull that one off, I find, but I think he did a good job there. Did he just peel off his number? Okay, and the ab and thigh. Now, on paper, Brandao should absolutely whoop Juan, I think, but I think it's actually closer than you'd think, because Juan's got a really good midsection, surprisingly so. Like, look how deeply cut his abs are. And the serratus is really great, too. It's just the legs, really, that come up short. And probably cost him this pose, because I think through the quads, Brandao is just whooping him. And the midsections are close enough. When Brandao hits this vacuum, I actually like it more than his standard ab and thigh, because it kind of streamlines his waist a little more and puffs out his lats and his chest a bit more to make his upper body appear bigger. So I think this is, I'm not sure if they're allowed to just hit a vacuum, but I would like for him to hold that a little bit longer than he did. Because when he hits the conventional ab and thigh, you can notice that his lower obliques, they spill out just a little bit. Not a lot, but enough to kind of throw off his lines, which are otherwise very aesthetic and clean. So this is one area of weak point, or of weakness, rather, for Brandao when it comes to that aspect. Because generally speaking, he's got great shape and symmetry and everything. But I find his ab and thigh a little bit underwhelming. In the most muscular, so anyway, as for the ab and thigh, let's just give it to Brandao, because still that's only his third pose out of 8, because let's face it, he's not going to beat Juan in the most muscular. This is a pose that's like tailor-made for mass monsters, which Juan is. I mean, just look at the size difference through the chest and delts and arms. I like Brandao when he executes the crab here, because his delts and pecs kind of come to life. Look at all the striations and the split chest there. But he still needs to bring up his arms a bit to match that. And he could become a little bit bigger and wider, I think. Juan looks very good here when he's kind of more upright in the crab. But in a second, once he really gets into it, it's basically lights out, game over right here. I mean, what a monster. Just look at all the thickness. Look at the vein just crawling through the chest and delt there. I mean, this is kind of like a knockout punch for Juan Morel here. So that's how I see it, guys. In my book, I have Juan winning like 5 out of the 8 poses, so I think it's going to be enough for him to get this win. But it is definitely a very good battle on our hands. And depending on how the judges want to go, they might even decide to go with Brandao, because he's got better symmetry, he's got better separation, he's more aesthetic, right? And you could also argue that going body part by body part, he's more complete than Juan. He's got better proportions than Juan Morel. But Morel just has such a considerable size advantage. I mean, he must have at least 20 or 30 pounds of muscle on this guy, probably just in the upper body alone. And he's got that muscle maturity factor that Brandao lacks. Brandao's still very young. He's still kind of coming into his own. So Juan has these kind of finer details that only come from years and years of training, and that's muscle maturity. And he's got that dry, grainy conditioning that the judges seem to love. So I think that Juan's probably going to emerge victorious here, but, it's still kind of up in the air. Depending on how these guys look tonight, things could play out very differently. So I think Brandao still has a shot, but I think he's fighting an uphill battle, and I think Juan is ultimately probably going to take it. So that's how I see this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you all for watching. Until next time, I'm the Tominator signing off, and I'll be back.